everyone, this is Jerry at Pale Moon Ranch. Today we're going to go over my guitar bending iron, my side bending iron, how I built it. This would be a little easier if I was building one, but I don't need another one, so I'm going to just kind of try to go through this for you on what I did. Pieces we need: you're going to need some MDF, you're going to build a box. The dimensions of mine, dimensions aren't that critical. You don't want it too big. I'm basically 8 inches by 8 inches by 6 inches, six and a half inches tall when the top is on it. So I glued mine and screwed it everywhere. Probably glue on this is more than enough. Probably didn't need to go quite that far. On the box, I've drilled 2-inch holes on 2 sides for clamping. That will allow me to position this any way I want, sideways or up, and use squeeze clamps, or any kind of clamp that'll fit really, here and on my table edge, so that I can clamp this thing down in any direction that I want to use it. Okay, so the other things we're going to need. We're going to need a rheostat to control the temperature of the iron. I bought this one on Amazon. There'll be a link down below to, there's a link to all the parts that you're going to need, except the MDF and this piece of tin. You're going to need a power cord for that. I'll go over what I did with the rheostat in a minute. And then for the iron itself, you're going to need some 2-inch pipe. Galvanized pipe is what I used, 8 inches long. You're going to need a cap for the top of this. Now mine looks a little different, primarily because originally I had a different approach to this, and I was trying to seal this in and have this plug that I could remove in the top, because I was going to use oil inside to heat, but that didn't work out so well. It was a bit of an adventure, but I've got a different approach that worked even better. So you can either do like I did. I welded on a flange to take this down to 1 1/4 inch, and then I put a plug in here. And I'll get a wrench and take that plug off in a minute. So a 2-inch cap, 8-inch galvanized pipe, a floor flange, 2-inch floor flange, and then inside the bottom you're going to get a 1 1/2 inch bushing. That'll a 1 1/2 inch bushing will fit fairly close in here. I welded mine inside here, and that bushing it's a 1 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch bushing, so that you can screw your cartridge heater into that 1/2 inch fitting there. You can use, there's JB Weld has an extreme heat JB Weld epoxy for metal that I think you could probably use if you don't have a welder or are not comfortable with welding in that bushing. Same with the top. If you choose to do what I did and put a bushing in here instead of a cap, the only advantage to that is that you can grind this down smooth, so that you're smooth all the way up. It turned out to really not be an advantage, so I wouldn't bother. I just put a cap on it and it'll have a ridge underneath there. What else do we need? You need your cartridge heater. I got this on Amazon. Again, there's a link down below to it. This is just an extra I have here in case this one were to go out. And that cartridge heater will screw into the bottom here. Okay? So, I'm going to get a wrench to take the top off. Set those aside. Your cap can only be, you can put it on hand tight. Again, everything on here is a little tighter because I was trying to seal oil inside, which I'm not doing anymore. So inside, let's see if I've got a, that cartridge heater to make contact with the pipe. So a lot of ways to do that. Like I said originally, I tried oil. It didn't work out so good. I've seen guys where they take a piece of tin, a really long piece of tin, and they wrap it real tight and put it down in there. That just seemed like more work to me. So what I did is I put BBs in here. These are just standard BBs for a BB gun. They don't look the right color anymore because they've been heated up so many times. And then you can't really see down in there. Let me put a light on my phone here and see if I can see down in there. I don't know if you can see that, but the cartridge heater comes up through the middle there. And then the heater heats the BBs, and the BBs heat the pipe. And this is very effective. Like I said, I can get this heater up to about 600 degrees. I usually don't want it that high. I want it more closer to 400 degrees is usually pretty good. I don't know why I didn't get as many BBs back in there as I took out. And this can just be hand tighted, but it doesn't need to be cranked down to where you can't take it off. The last thing I need is this piece of tin. I cut this piece of tin to match the bottom of that. That's to create a buffer, so any sparks in here wouldn't touch the wood. So that's just a buffer between the wiring that's wired up inside here and the wood. Okay. On the top of your box, you're going to drill a 1/2 inch hole through the middle here, and that's it. And that's just to run your wires down inside. So you're going to run your power cord to the rheostat. I don't know if I can show you this very well. This rheostat that I bought, I have a link with a picture down there. Let's see. This rheostat, you can use it one of two ways. It comes with 2 plugs on it. So you plug it into the wall, and then it's got 2 plugs, and you could just take your power cord and just plug it into that rheostat and leave that sitting on your desktop. I wanted to integrate in mine, so I took the back off the rheostat and I removed the 2 plugs, and I cut those wires, and then I wired my cartridge heater directly into the rheostat. And these are just wire nutted and taped up. Okay? And then the other end of it gets wired up to my cord. And then there's a ground wire. We'll get to that in just a second, how I did the ground. We need to ground it to the metal on this. And so, well, the way I did that was that I just stripped the end of the wire, and I drilled a pilot hole for my screws, and I just push that wire up inside that screw hole, and then when I screwed this down on top, it makes contact with that ground, and that works. You could also go ahead and just run that wire all the way through, put a spade connector on it, put that spade connector under the screw, that'd work fine too. After I did this, I cut out a matching size hole in my box here, and I just caulked this in, just glued it in with silicone adhesive. Okay, so I'm going to tuck all this wire back up inside here and set this down on here. Now I drill pilot holes for my screw holes so that I don't tear up the MDF too bad. Make sure my ground wire's through there now. So I've got my ground wire in this hole right over here. And I didn't realize it was in that hole, so I'm going to move it to a different one. Because I want to use a longer screw on there. I want to make sure that the screw goes all the way through and holds this wire in there. Let's just go ahead and kind of fits this hole the best. So I'm going to pull this shorter screw out and put the longer one in there. Of course, my screw just fell on the ground. Arrange these wires in here. Shorter screws. Okay. Check my ground wire and it's secure in there. That's the main thing. So again, if it's not clear, you'll see when you take that rheostat apart that it's got wiring that goes to the plugs that are in the end, and you're going to just hook up the white wire to one of the two white wires from the heater. It's not polar, so it doesn't matter which one, and the other one to the red wire. And then you're going to you connect one wire to the white wire of your power cord and the other white wire to the red wire on the rheostat. And then the black wire gets connected to the black wire on your power cord, assuming you use a power cord that has white and black and a green, which you should. I recommend a 12 gauge heavy duty power cord. I think that's kind of it. And then we'll just screw the bottom on here. Everything else is glued, but the bottom I did not glue because I wanted to be able to take it apart and get inside there if I needed to do any repairs. Holes seem to be lining up, so it seems like maybe I put it on here in the right direction. It's a perfectly square piece, so it's hard to tell. And I drilled pilot holes with a countersink so that these would be flat and flush because it sits on this. The last thing you need on this is you need a drop the screw someplace there. You need a way of measuring the temperature, and I use a infrared thermometer to do that. So I just turn this on and I just shoot it, and it gives me an accurate reading of the temperature so I can monitor it. So let's go ahead and plug this thing in and give it a whirl. Let's see this plug right here. It's over there. Let me just plug it into the CNC. can feel the heat starting to come on down there. Still kind of curious why I didn't get as many bees back in as I took out. I guess that's one of the mysteries of life. While that's heating up, I can kind of go ahead and show how you can use this to clamp it. You gotta carefully grab that. It is starting to warm up. So I got my holes, like I said. So if I want to orient it this way, I can just take one of my squeeze clamps here, and I've got my hole right here, and just put my squeeze clamp in there, and clamp this down to the table, so it doesn't move on me while I'm doing it. This isn't a good surface for demonstrating this because I'm on an edge here, but you get the idea. You know, and I've seen guys make a wide platform for the bottom so they can clamp it down, but that doesn't let you turn it. So if you wanted to turn it, you'd have to put that wide platform on a different side. But with this, you can simply turn it, you know, and on the side and clamp it. The hole will let you orient it any direction you want to. So just like that. And then I can use it this way instead of up and down. And of course it heats at the base faster than it heats at the top. Right now this is reading 128 degrees down here at the bottom. Up at the top it's still 87. So it will normalize. The temperature will even out as it gets hotter. This takes a while, so go pour yourself a drink. This thing does get pretty hot. You probably don't want to leave it unattended too much. But (147 degrees). Yeah, see now it's starting to get hot up here in the top. It's up to 106 degrees. 135 in the middle. And everybody has different ways of bending their wood too. You can use a thin piece of tin that you put between your wood and this to do that. I've not found that useful. My way of doing this is to use a wet rag. I'll actually soak the wood. I'll get it wet under the faucet, not necessarily soak it, but just get it nice and wet. And then I'll get a soaked rag, and I'll just use that rag between the piece of wood and the bending iron, and it just helps to keep from getting scorches on there. We'll get to that shortly. Alright, getting up to, we're at 180 at the base. We're at 172 at the middle. So you see how it's normalizing. It's distributing. Up here at the top it's only at 120 degrees. But you're usually going to be using this section anyway, and it's 173 degrees right there where you can see the little laser beam on there. Of course, your rheostat doesn't have temperature settings. You could get out your Sharpie and figure this out by setting it to different ways, waiting for it, measuring the temperature, and making a mark, and writing in there that it's at 200 degrees or 300 degrees or 400 degrees. I'm looking for something around 350, 400 degrees to bend wood. Any hotter than that, like I said, this thing will get pretty darn hot. All right, I'm at 300 degrees, so it's getting close. I'm gonna go get my little piece of wood here and my rag wet, and I'll be right back. It's at 321. I'm going to go ahead and turn this down. I'm going to put it right about 60%. It's been a while since I used it. I can't really remember exactly where. I have not marked mine with temperatures, so I know. I just ran my piece of wood, which would be my side or my purfling that I'm trying to bend, or my bindings, and I'm going to wrap them in here. And you can go slow because this wood's very thin, it'll crack very easily. And just keep it moving. Not much chance of scorching it through this towel when it's this wet. This piece of wood's probably about the thickness you'd have for your sides, probably about 0.1, yeah, probably about 0.1 inches. I'm over bending it just so you can see how effective this is. I've learned to use this in my furniture making as well. I don't use it just for guitars anymore. Sometimes we want to bend wood for furniture making, like when we're putting caulk beads on curved surfaces and stuff like that. And so this is quite a handy little tool. And do keep in mind that thing's very hot. It's over 300 degrees. There you have it. That's it. That's my bending iron. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you find it useful. If you did, hit the thumbs up down below and consider subscribing to my channel if you're so inclined. Take care. Happy trails. See you down the road.